Hey, pretty pumped about this week's podcast. I've got with me the man that is the head coach of Jillaroos, Brad Donald. How are you, mate?
Yeah, really good, mate. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to talking a little bit about women's sport and the Jillaroos.
I'm really excited to hear how a guy got that gig. Let's rip in.
Welcome to the Body Science Podcast. As always, the information contained in this podcast is for the information purposes only and is not designed to diagnose or be prescriptive to treat, prevent, or manage any injury, disease, or other health-related condition.
Welcome to Body Science HQ, the world of fit, happy, healthy, and with me, the man that is head coach of the Jillaroos, Brad. How are you, brother?
Yeah, really good, mate. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, let's not muck around here. There's a male in charge of a female national sporting team here. Let's get a bit of bio on you and a bit of background as to why you're the man that's running, and you're heading over to the World Cup with.
Yeah, we are, mate. We're off to the World Cup in like 5 or 6 weeks' time.
Yeah, exactly.
So, look, mate, I'm a bit of an accidental expert, and I use the word expert very loosely. There's not a book on this stuff, but generally, like I've been involved in the game for 20 years.
Yep.
I was a development officer, got a really strong passion for grassroots footy. Kids play footy. I loved footy. I was a shitty footy player. But loved it. So, captain coached around the country, got involved in an in an NRL system in Canberra. Loved it. And then I moved up here in 2010 with a promise that I'd have some coaching opportunities as well as being the coach and development manager for the QRL.
Yep.
So and pretty much what happened was I got asked to go and coach a women's side, and I was like pretty naive at the time, and I wasn't that happy, to be honest, because I was sort of thinking, I was sort of thinking about a Q Cup gig or something like that. And anyway, I thought I'll see how it goes. And I went out to the first session that was full of Jillaroos and players that had played the game for a long time, Tani Norris, Karen Murphy. And I was just blown away by how coachable they were, how humble they were, and what they didn't have access to that I'd had access to as a community rugby league player. So that sort of started the passion for being involved with the women's game pretty much, mate.
And from that, you've stayed in that role.
Yeah, no. So that was just it was a Southeast Queensland team role. And look, if you're going back to the ideal of probably a female coaching a female, like Karen Murphy, probably the greatest player that's ever played the game. Very high-ranking police officer, or more than an officer. She ran the integrity unit at the NRL for the last 7 or 8 years, and now she's been appointed as the head coach at the Gold Coast Titans. So, this is a lady that's got a lot of experience. And before I took the first session with these girls, I'd actually said to the boss, I said, well, why isn't there a female coaching females? It just made a bit of sense to me. And he said, oh, well, the next person to retire who's got a great rugby league brain would be Karen. Why don't you invite her in and ask her why, ask her if she's interested. So pretty much I just said to her, why isn't there a female coach? And she just she's a really quiet sort of person, but she sort of almost barked back at me going, well, we don't care if you're male or female. We just want the best person to coach us.
How excellent's that?
And I just went, okay, right. And even knowing what I know now, mate, some females will be great in a male area of coaching in sport, where they need more nurturing and support, which generally females give, and some males, it just depends on your personality. Really got to be a great communicator, a great listener. You got to have really good EQ to coach females, I think, and that's probably how I've sort of stayed in it now for nearly 13 years. Took the national gig on in 16, and looking forward to the World Cup this year.
Yeah, I was talking to Troy from the male side the other day, and I hung around at the Titans the other day and watched the female game. That is a very fast and hard-hitting game of football. How did sports science change from what we do with guys in rugby league, where there's 100 years of history to fall back on, to, obviously touch football and those type of sports have had a lot to do with handling of the ball and knowing how to throw the ball and running lines and stuff. But how did we go to playing contact sport with the girls in your, because I assume it wasn't, let's just pick 20 girls that want to go out and tackle each other. It's very much a positional sport.
Yeah.
It's understanding how the game flows.
Yeah.
How did and obviously you're a rugby league coach. How did we bring because the female game's very different. The ball's thrown a lot more, I thought, and they're running way different lines to what the guys are running. It was I really enjoyed watching it. Is that tactical, or is that just the girls the way they think? What is it that's making the game different? But I'm trying to get to I really want to get to like who's supporting you in your role and all that area. But I'm trying to get to, from a sports science perspective, running a male for that 40-odd minutes and running a female for that 40-odd minutes, and the two different games they're playing, they're very different athletes.
Yeah, look, we've had to learn a lot. There's a lot in what you just said. The first thing is that the game is look. We had to make the game different. There's a catch cry, same game our way. The girls are different. In 2016 we got the Jillaroos together. There was 35 trialists, and we asked them. We said, "How many of you guys are in regular strength and conditioning programs?" And we only had 8 hands go up.
Is that right?
So this is back in 2016. So we've actually had to expedite this so quickly. So when you talk about sports science and all of the things that go into being an athlete, nutrition, recovery, a lot of our players just weren't aware of that. So the international game is 80 minutes. It's the World Cup will be played in 80 minutes. When we played in 2017, we had 3-day turnarounds, which is crazy because, our men aren't allowed to do that, and they're full-time athletes. So we had to introduce them to a lot of the sports science stuff. And then on the back of the Rugby League World Cup success in 2017, we started the NRLW. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, why is there only 4 teams?" Now, that has a lot to do with and we played 30-minute halves to start with. That was really player-driven by the elite girls, or the girls at the very top, that they wanted to put the best product on the paddock. Now it was a great idea from them. They pushed it really hard. And you mentioned before there, not taking anything away from the wonderful athletes that play other sports like AFL and 360-degree sports, but you can put a fit lady into a lot of those positions without them getting injured. You can't put a fit lady in the front row. You can't put a fit lady in to play hooker. You've actually got a specific set of skills that you've got to play. And I do know that we've got that across others, but that generally makes it harder for us to grow the game, because we've actually got to grow different types of players in different positions, and they've all got different needs.
Yeah. And mate, speaking of the needs, and obviously the clubs have a lot to do with what happens with you when you get them at the Jillaroos end, are the clubs really supportive of putting together the programs to help you then put the national team together?
Yeah, look, only from this year, because we actually ran a top 40 program from 2016, where we basically trained them remotely.
Okay. But how was that?
Yeah, look, it's tough. It's you're playing a team sport, but we had probably one of our best athletes was in Gladstone. She played in the 2017 World Cup final and did a great job, but she had the best results, and she was the one that adopted absolutely everything when it came to training and when it came to sports science. But remembering we play a team sport, she had to actually go out and train herself. So pretty hard to go out and push yourself as hard as you can when you're by yourself and you're used to being in a team sport.
That's a tough gig.
Yeah. And so it was. So the introduction of the extra teams in the NRLW, and we've had 2 seasons this year because last year got cancelled. So we've got a really good lead into the World Cup this year.
Love it. So just stepping back to the clubs for a second and the growth of it in that space, are you consulting back to the clubs a lot on what they need to look at and what they need to do to grow this competition?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of learning on the run. That's what happened for us. Yeah. And so us to share that knowledge with the clubs has been a really important part. So we've sort of transitioned from where I had a couple of staff and we ran the program for the 40 girls, where we're now sharing our knowledge and experience. And we've done a lot of research with Griffith University on, things that I never thought I'd be talking about, the menstrual cycle and how that impacts on our athletes and injury. I just think of a really simple we're sitting around hearing about the menstrual cycle for the first time, and I was half tuned out. And I actually captured the lecturer standing there and says, "Oh, look, if you're amenorrheic, where you don't have your period, you're 7 times more likely to have some bone issues."
Yep.
And I just sort of went, "Wait, hang on, can I just ask you girls here, have any of you does this like apply to any of you guys?" And 2 hands go up.
Yep.
And it was 2 of our better athletes, and it was 2 athletes that had really had issues with, like, I think one had 5 fractures and one had 4 broken bones.
There you go.
And you know, it's almost like a rite of passage as a female athlete that you think that you train so hard that you lose your period. And we've found out since, and then this is the stuff that we share with clubs. So from a physical performance point of view, and then it's a whole new world when we start talking about the psychology of the girls being different to the guys, and clubs are finding that out the quick way.
At the moment, like, in all honesty, are they just picking up male models and putting a circle and a square, or have they been really open to thinking? I mean, it is hard to make dramatic change, and we're talking clubs that have been around forever. Like,
yeah,
this is the way we've done it forever. Are you having a lot of issues in that space?
Oh, I think it's like clubs are sort of suck it and see, like it's a suck it and see type approach. But, you know, they definitely taken things on board. Like, there are things in a girl's environment which are really, really big issues that aren't in the guys. Like, you know, again, if I go back to the first training session that I had with that female team back in 2010, the training session was planned for 2 hours and it was over in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But then every single player lined up and was like, "G'day, coach, I'm such and such," and had a bit of a story and and they wanted that connection.
Yep.
And after about an hour and a half, there was one girl and she was off and she was moving around, and I could tell she wanted to talk to me, and I finished up the second last one, and she comes over and she goes, "Oh, g'day, coach. You know, I just want to let you know, like, I put on a little bit of weight." And I go, "Oh, okay. Do you want me to help you with it, like a nutritionist?" "Oh, no, I've got a couple of injuries." "Okay, what about a physio?" No, just mentally I'm not going. "No, psychologist." No. So, like, she's thrown all these things at me, and in the end, she's just full of tears, grabs me, says, "Can't wait to play for your coach," gives me a big hug, and then just walks off and leaves me there scratching my bloody head, you know. And I jumped in the car and I rang my wife and I said, "Sorry, I'm 2 hours late, you know, like, you wouldn't believe what happened." And she goes, "You know, you're a bullfed." She goes, "I tell you this all the time, you know, like, girls just want to be listened to, you know, you don't have to fix all their problems."
Yep.
So, you know, just little things like that I've learned along the way is like, is what these clubs are. You know, I get these male coaches that have been involved in the male game for a long time, all of a sudden coaching females, going, "Man, they need some feedback." And I go, well, they ask for feedback, but really what they're asking for is they're asking for reassurance.
Yep.
Because generally females have got low self-confidence. And it's, you know, you could think of the most I could ask you to name 10 egotistical male athletes and you'd be able to name 20.
Yeah.
But I'll guarantee you can't get past 5 when it comes to a female athlete. Yeah. So, you know, they're just wired differently, and, you know, there's a lot of learnings in that stuff.
And so what does your support team look like for the Jillaroos? Like, so Brad, we had Troy on the other day and we talked about how do they get the team over to the UK, logistically, gyms, recovery, all things that happen. And I'm really keen to see the difference between the males and the females here. And I know this could be a topic of opening a can of whoop ass, and I hope I'm not. Like, I hope we're playing the same ground. But, you know, he talked about, do you get the whole team together before they go? So we're travelling as one team over to the UK?
Yeah, look, pretty much everything that we do, we normally travel with the Kangaroos, and the only reason that we wouldn't, that we're not this time around is because we don't start our tournament till a week and a half later.
Yep.
So, but everything's the same. We have our medicals on the same day. We travel the same as the boys, you know, like I think the girls are going to be in for, you know, quite a shock, a business class seat.
So they should get to, mate.
Yeah, that's right. You know, many people would love to turn left when they get on that big aeroplane. So, but it's all about performance and making sure that we're doing the same as the guys. And
you're bringing the light control in, the food control, all the things with the airlines that they're doing as well?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That is unreal.
Yeah, like the light, the white light glasses, the noise cancelling wearing headphones, the sleep times. You know, we've got a sleep doctor coming in. We're coming into camp here on the Gold Coast in a week before we leave, so we're going to be in for a bit of a shock because we're going from here to York is going to be quite a challenge. But having that stuff taken care of will allow the girls to, just the same as the guys, be able to get off the plane. Their first training session, they'll be out there as their best as possible, and their first game they will be as well.
Yeah, and are you guys sharing gyms and stuff, or you're in different parts of the country?
Yeah, we're actually in different parts of the country. We're set up in York, a fantastic. Mal and Troy actually did a recce, and we didn't end up going because we had a couple of other things going on, but they spent some time in York making sure that the gym facilities at the university, the World Cup does a lot of that stuff for us. But and look, Mal's been huge in terms of making this equality as well. I remember getting interviewed by him, and let me tell you, I was like pooping me dacks, like the big fella sitting opposite me, asking really straight questions about where the women's game should be, because he had a view that he wanted the Jillaroos to be treated exactly the same as the Kangaroos. So, he's been a driving force behind this as well. Yeah,
he's a great asset in rugby league. So good to see that, Mal's sharing the joy of what you do at the same level as what the guys are doing in a sport that's been dominated by guys for 100 years. Like, let's not pretend that doesn't exist. But it's really great to see that these girls have got a fair chance of bringing home the silverware.
Yeah, mate. Look, both of our teams do, and there's an expectation that we do. Like that goes with part of our our excellence as a value that we do, and we give them the best opportunity to bring it home. So there is an expectation that when you pull that jersey on, that you'll perform your best and you'll bring the trophy home.
Love it.
Yeah, look, we've got a couple of assistant coaches, very similar to Mal's, and the Kangaroos.
Male or female?
Yeah, at the moment we're a lot more female, and that's one of the things that I would like. I'll be proud of when I can hand over the reins as the national coach to a female. I think we've done some. I said before there, it doesn't matter if it's male or female; it's the right person. But I also think, you can't be what you can't see is one of the terms that's used in female sport, and we've now got 2 female state of origin coaches.
Yep.
I think so. I'll have 2 female assistant coaches this year, and pretty much I think there's 4 male staff, and we've probably got around about 9 or 10 female staff, from physios, sports scientists, performance manager, statisticians. So really opening up opportunities for females in our area as well.
Yeah, nice. And you talked about Griffith Uni before starting some of that research with you. How did that come about?
Our performance manager, Simon Buxton's a bit of a nerdy bloke, and he's right into...
you want that space.
It is, and he'd hate me saying that. But, one of the things, he'd come from the male space, and I remember him saying, look, I'll give you a couple of years and, I want to jump back into NRL. And I said, mate, you know what? You could become like one of the country's best experts in here, and he has, like he's done a master's degree. They've done a lot of work on workload. They've done a lot of work on the menstrual cycle. They've done a lot of work on high speed running and the differences between males and females, and turned the dials on the on how long the games go for. Our NRLW is up to 35 minutes. So he was the person in there driving that. And Claire Minahan at Griffith,
how good
she's absolutely sensational.
Legend,
like we've got a program for our Indigenous athletes at the AIS at the moment that Claire opened the door for us to take, where we've got 35 Indigenous girls that are down there basically training like full-time athletes, while Claire and a bunch of researchers are also doing some work on research in females, because there isn't a great deal of work out there. If it wasn't for people like Claire and 2 or 3 others in the country, would have nothing.
Yeah. Okay.
So she's opened the door on a lot of that stuff, and it's been fantastic for our program.
And are we leading the way in the world in this space? Like as a small country playing a contact sport, we are.
We are. And they've published some papers on this. And that's the first thing we went looking for, or Simon went looking for in 2016. There was just no collision sport data on females.
Yeah.
So we're getting that on injury prevention. Females are more likely to have ACL injuries because of the way that their body's built. So there's so many differences, and we have started to lead the way, and we're fortunate enough now to get around and talk to it. And look, one of the things in the female space that I've found in all sport, in all female sports, is a great spirit of collaboration.
Yeah.
So people don't mind sharing, whereas, and that's sort of the sentiment across that, that social structure too of the girls needing to get along. And that's sort of this environment where we need to get along when we're not stand out like guys do, So, yeah, that's been a big difference as well.
And are you getting together with the Jillaroos, for example, and talking about women in sport? Like, is Rugby League talking with Union? And because I noticed there's quite a few of the girls jump between both.
Yeah, we certainly do. A couple of years ago, during COVID, we went down and coached the Warriors side, and we had a couple of the Rugby Sevens girls.
Yep.
And we communicated a lot with John, who was Manetti, who was coaching the Sevens program at the time. And we shared how we were preparing. And look, they do a fantastic job because they've been the only sport that's been full-time, the only collision sport that's been full-time for a long time here. So we're seeing a number of their athletes come across to Rugby League or even Rugby 15s, where it's very amateur in terms of what they get paid and how they train, and they've been great. But yeah, we certainly share wherever we can with the AFLW. There's lots of opportunities where our hierarchy or even our performance managers share data. Simon spent a lot of time in New Zealand with the Black Ferns, and learning from how they do things as well. So yeah, everybody's sort of much more open to sharing. That's
awesome, mate. That is so good to hear. So what do the girls think of the future of rugby league for them?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because we're expanding, but every single time we expand, we're probably a step further away from it being professional because of I guess the costs associated. So you go from 6 teams to 10 teams. That's 10 clubs now that are paying a salary cap. But we also need expansion so we can go professional because we need it to be year round. So there's young players that have come into the game now that we'll see that are professional. I think there's some pretty good models around the world. There's rugby 15s in the UK is professional. Mm-hmm. It's done a little bit differently. Like we're here, we're replicated the NRL franchises, and in other places like the NBA, the WNBA, they haven't necessarily replicated those franchises. And in the rugby, there seems to be more tertiary institutions like universities that are involved, a couple of traditional rugby clubs as well. So I think over the next few years, what we'll see more expansion, and we'll be heading. We're sort of in the semi-professional phase, and we're going to see more professional athletes as we head towards professionalism, and that's what the girls want. But we've got a lot of work to do because we've got to build a whole big base underneath, and look, participation numbers are going through the roof. What a great time to be a female athlete. There's so many opportunities.
Totally it's awesome. Yeah, and mate, I see it's the team is called the Harvey Norman Jillaroos. How good have they been, or how people don't talk about sponsors enough, if you ask me, when it comes to sport. And you just said it's a beast. Every time you start a new team, it takes resources that were previously.
Yeah.
Are people like Harvey Norman, and is there anyone else that's really helping female sport? Like, it should be thrown out there and applauded what they're doing.
Yeah, look, totally. Look, Katie Page has been at the forefront of the women's movement in sport, I think. But we've been really lucky, and like even yourselves, like you guys have been great to our program. We've gone from a men's program, and most of our sponsors were very similar. Like you go, oh well, we actually want to elevate the Jillaroos to the same capacity as the Kangaroos. Yep. That means that whatever those guys get, the girls will get, and BSC, Harvey Norman, these people have really enabled us to do that. So we've been really, really fortunate, mate. And without them and without their foresight to be able to do that, we certainly wouldn't be in the position we are today.
Yeah. Look, I'm not going to pick your brain too much, but I want to have a chat about the World Cup. Like, how many players you take away for that?
Yeah, 24.
And it's a jersey, like, mean everything to the girls.
Too right. Like in any sport, you know, it's the pinnacle. It means you're the best player in that position at that time. And you know, over the last few years, we've done a really good job of making sure that anyone that gets one of those jerseys understands the responsibility that goes with it.
Yeah.
You know, like we've got a set of values. You know, many organisations and sporting teams have values, but they're words in a drawer or words on a wall. But we talk to our athletes about what it means. You know, like our values are respect, inspire, selfless, and excellence. And we talk about what that means. And it means, like, once you get that jersey, you're forever a Jillaroo.
Yep.
And Mal does a similar thing with the Kangaroos. Like, so, you know, you might be in your Sunday worst or best and at the local coffee shop, you're always a Jillaroo. So you're always on show. So our expectations on character is really high.
Yep.
And because of that, and as well as the on-field performance. So I think that those jerseys are held in very high esteem. And when we've got a great responsibility, there's been 159 Jillaroos that have played. The game didn't start till 95. Yeah.
Wow.
There was a foundation team that played in 93 before that. But we've got a great responsibility to those ladies that, you know, some of those ladies sold cars to pay for a $7,000 trip to the 2000 World Cup in the UK. So that's what they paid. So, you know, just reminding our girls that we want to forge the future and send this thing professional, but we've also come a long way and we've got a lot of respect. We're standing on the shoulders of some giants way back there as well.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you're away for how long for the World Cup?
We'll be close to, I think, about close to 2 months.
Pretty similar to the boys.
Yeah. The boys go a week and a half before us, and we've got a 4-day turnaround this time, which will be a bit better than the 3 days.
Yep.
But really looking forward to it. It's going to be interesting for our girls because I think we've only got 3 girls currently playing that played the last time that the Jillaroos played in the UK was 2013. It was the first time.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
So that was the World Cup, and it was the first time they beat the Kiwis, and we won the World Cup in 13. So it's, again, one of the things that we take for granted is we've been pretty successful against the Kiwis, against the Ferns, who are our greatest competition, although the English are very strong as well as the France. But there was a period of time between 95 and 2013 where we got a hiding. So, you know, the Kiwis smashed us for a very, very long time, and getting some of our ladies that were in those early teams to come in and talk about that is
cool.
Not taking it for granted.
That's cool. Brad, thanks for coming in, mate. Like, I always love talking about sport. And to be honest, I think you're the first female sport coach who's been on. That sounds terrible when I say that out loud, but it's I mean, I love the Jillaroos. We've been a part of the team for as long as I can remember. Yeah. But it's really good to talk to someone who's so passionate about seeing not just their team grow or that national jersey, but you want to see the sport get to where it can go. And the fact that you've got a legacy that you want to see female coaches, I just congratulate you on what you've done, mate. Like, it's well done.
No, thanks, mate. And like, as always, you know, the support that you guys have given us have helped us be in this position. So really appreciate it.
It's all good. And go get them, girls.